We are at the Yuma Quartermaster Depot State Historic Park, which is the place where the Army used to store 6 months worth of supplies for all of the forts in the Arizona Territory. Fort Yuma was first established here in the early 1850s, and once the Army discovered that the river was navigable by steamer, they realized that that was really the only way to get supplies onto the western edge of Arizona. We're very close to the Mexican border here, so it was kind of like the first port into the U.S. So they would stockpile all these supplies at Fort Yuma, but then they were still on the California side of the river. So the government would have to pay the ferrymen to ship all those supplies across the river so that they could transport them by wagon into the interior of Arizona. So they realized, well, Fort Yuma is a good spot. It's, again, kind of like the first port in the U.S., but we need to get it on the Arizona side. So they decided to actually build a supply depot on the Arizona side of the river. Although we first opened during the Civil War, the Indian Wars period of the 1870s was really our heyday. That's the period when the Army was most busy here. Supplies were constantly coming in and going out. Throughout that period, the federal government was using the Army to force the Native Americans onto reservations and encourage the westward expansion and encourage settlement of folks that might establish farms or mines and businesses, really just get the territory populated. The supplies that were stored in the old storehouse or the old warehouse would have been stacked up along the sides. It stored everything that the troops could not procure close to their forts. So it was the food, the clothes, the guns, the bullets, camping equipment, medicine, all kinds of things that would come here. Most of our supplies came from San Francisco, where there was another large supply depot. And again, they would come by ocean steamer around Baja, California, up to the mouth of the Colorado River. And at the Colorado, they would transfer everything onto river steamboats. And the river steamers, the smaller river steamers, would come up the Colorado, and they would dock just on the other side of this building, which is the old storehouse, and they would unload all of the supplies onto these little rail carts. And the rail carts were attached to what looked like a rail track system, and the track system came down the center bay. Originally there were 3 bays to the warehouse. Today we just have 2. So it made it easy for them to pull in all these heavy supplies and stack them up until they needed to go out to the forts. So we stored 6 months worth of supplies for all of the forts in Arizona and some forts outside of Arizona as well. And although the supplies would first come here by water, they would go out into the interior of Arizona by wagon train. So we had, here at the depot, we had a building called the Corral House, and inside the corral is where we would keep sometimes hundreds of mules at a time for all of the wagon trains going out to the forts. Although we officially closed in 1883, we really started to slow down in the late 1870s, not because the Indian Wars were slowing down, but really because in the late 1870s, the first trains came through Yuma, and trains could, of course, ship things much cheaper and much faster, so the trains really kind of forced the closure of the depot. After the Army left in the early 1800s, the Bureau of Reclamation moved into both our old corral house and the old storehouse as part of their Yuma Project headquarters. And the Yuma Project was a large-scale irrigation project that was designed to bring irrigation water to the Yuma Valley. And it involved the construction of 3 major irrigation components. It involved the construction of Laguna Dam, which was the first dam on the Colorado River. It's about 10 miles upriver from us. The construction of the Yuma Main Canal, which now swings back behind the depot, and the construction of the Colorado River Siphon, which is this incredible engineering feat that brings canal water from the California side of the Colorado River underneath the Colorado and then pops it back up on the Arizona side of the river. The town of Yuma really became established as a military town. The town first started to grow and become established around Fort Yuma. When the depot was established, we really didn't have very many troops that worked here. There was just the quartermaster, a commissary officer, and 1 or 2 military telegraphers. But pretty much everyone else that worked here were civilians. So we were really a huge employer for the Yuma area. And then in the early 1900s, we kind of switched from a military town to an agricultural town. When the Bureau of Reclamation came in and established the Yuma Project and completed the various Yuma Project components, it brought all this irrigation water to the old Colorado River floodplain. And then the town boomed as an agricultural town. And again, back today, we're really both towns. We're both a military town and an agricultural town. We have the Marine Corps Air Station here. We have the Yuma Proving Grounds north of us, and we still have lots of agriculture here.